Yogam adoksaje lokasya janato vidvams chakre sattvata samitam. The material miseries, please repeat, the material miseries of the living being are superfluous to him, and they can be directly mitigated by the linking process of Bhakti Yoga. But the mass of people do not know this. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in relation with the absolute truth. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We just got this one up, yeah? Okay, Sarvatra. Okay. There's 3 verses actually we're supposed to read. Canto 5, chapter 5, text 10 to 13. This chapter is called Lord Rishabhadev's teachings to his 100 sons. So we're also his sons, we're going to hear. So I'll read the first 3 verses quickly, and then we'll go on to this Sarvatra. Okay? Hangse guru mai bhakjanu vrichya vitritsnayadvan vatitikshaya savatra janto vyasanavagatya jigyasaya tapaseha nivritya matkamabe matkataya chanityam maddeva sangad gunaketanan me nivara samyo pashamena putra jihasaya deha Gehatma Buddhe Ajatma Yogena Vivikta Sevaya Pranendriyatma Vijayena Sadryak Satstradaya Brahmacharyena Shashvad Asampramadena Samye Yamena Vacham Savatra Madbhava Vichakshanena Jnanena Vijnana Virajitena Yogena Dhrityujjama Sattvayukto Lingam Vyapohet Kushalo Aham Akyam Savatra Madbhava Vichakshanena Jnanena Vijnana Virajitena Yogena Dhrityujjama Sattvayukto Lingam Vyapohet Kushaloham Akyam Savatra Madbhava Vichakshanena Jnanena Vijnana Virajitena Yogena Dhrityujjama Sattvayukto Lingam Vyapohet Kushaloham Akyam Savatra Madbhava Vichakshanena Jnanena vijnana virajitena Yogena dvijyojama sattva yukto Lingam vyahope kushalohamakyam. Vaishnavis, please. Savatramad bhava vichaksanena Jnanena vijnana virajitena Yogena dvijyojama sattva yukto Lingam vyahopahet kushalohamakyam. Anyone else like to try? Okay, so we have a choice to read all the word for words or just this sloka. Any suggestion? So just read the word for word, this sloka? Okay? Okay, start Savatra. 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 Everywhere. Madbhava, thinking of me, with a capital M, me, thinking of me. That means Lord Rishabdev. Vichakshanena, by observing. Jnanena, by development of knowledge. Vijnana, by practical application of knowledge. Virajitena, illumined. Yogena, by practice of bhakti yoga. Dhritim, patience. Udyama, enthusiasm. Sattva, discretion. Yukta, endowed with. Lingam, the cause of material bondage. Vyapohet, one can give up. Kushalaham, in full auspiciousness. Aham akyam, false ego, false identification with the material world. So translation, I'm going to cover all the verses, 1, 2, 3, 4. O my sons, you should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the highest planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth. Then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord, and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home, and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. That was the translation of those 4 verses. Now is the purport by Srila Prabhupada. In these 4 verses, Rishabdev tells his sons how they can be freed from the false identification arising from false ego and material conditional life. One gradually becomes liberated by practicing as mentioned above. All these prescribed methods enable one to give up the material body, lingam vyapohet, and be situated in his original spiritual body. First of all, one has to accept a bona fide spiritual master. This is advocated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Guru Padashrayaha. To be freed from the entanglement of the material world, one has to approach a spiritual master. Tad Vigyanatam Sagurum Eva Bigachet. By questioning the spiritual master and by serving him, one can advance in spiritual life. When one engages in devotional service, naturally the attraction for personal comfort, for eating, sleeping, and dressing is reduced. By associating with the devotee, a spiritual standard is maintained. The word Mad Deva Sangat is very important. There are many so-called religions devoted to the worship of various demigods. But here, good association means association with one who simply accepts Krishna as his worshipable deity. Maddeva Sangat. Another important item is Dvandva Titiksha. As long as one is situated in the material world, there must be pleasure and pain arising from the material body. As Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita, Tam Stitikshava Bharata, Matraspashasta Kontaya, Sitoshna Sukadukada, Agama Paino Nitjas Tam Stitikshava Bharata. One has to learn how to tolerate the temporary pains and pleasures of this material world. One must also be detached from his family and practice celibacy. Sex with one's wife, according to the scriptural injunctions, is also accepted as brahmacharya, celibacy. But illicit sex is opposed to religious principles, and it hampers advancement in spiritual consciousness. Another important word is vijnana virajita. Everything should be done very scientifically and consciously. One should be a realized soul. In this way, one can give up the entanglement of material bondage. As Sri, it's a long purport, if you can just, I'll go back and we'll talk about some of these things. As Sri Madhvacharya points out, the sum and substance of these 4 slokas is that one should refrain from acting out of a desire for sense gratification and should instead always engage in the Lord's loving service. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the acknowledged path of liberation. Srila Madhvacharya quotes from the Adhyatma. Atmano vihitam karma vichayit vanya karmanaha kamasya chi parityago nirihetya uttamaha. One should perform activities only for the benefit of the soul. Any other activity should be given up. When a person is situated in this way, he is said to be, just to wake a few people up. When a person is situated in this way, he is said to be self-reliant. Yeah, getting there. I'll read the previous sentence. One should perform activities only for the benefit of the soul. Any other activity should be given up. When a person is situated in this way, he is said to be going, desireless. Actually, you only desire to serve Krishna, that's desirelessness. That's our, function of the hand to serve the stomach. It doesn't have any separate desire. The hand is fully surrendered to the rest of the body. Or it should be. If it is not, then okay, call the doctor. But the hand doesn't think, I have to serve the stomach. It just does everything automatically. So we're supposed to be like that, desireless. We don't have an independent desire. Sarvadhaman parichaja mamekam sharanam vraja. That's the whole idea of Bhakti Yoga, is to awaken our constitutional position in relationship to Krishna. Mukti hitvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastiti. Real liberation doesn't mean something airy-fairy. It means we become servant of Krishna. Jivara Swarupa Nichara Krishna Das. Sanatana Goswami asked in Varanasi, who am I? Kayami Kane Amaya. Who am I? Big question. You could ask a materialist this question and he'll be stumped. I'll say, I'm a British man. I'm an American. But that's very childish, because I could go and change my passport. I could become a Chinese. Does that mean I've changed my body? No. I'm still the same. The body's changing. So these questions, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, what am I? What is this world? Why am I suffering? Why I have to die? This is the purpose of human life. Dharmena hina pashubhisama. If we don't do these things, just like I was hearing a lecture by Prabhupada. It wasn't a lecture, it was Prabhupada was talking with Tamal Krishna in 1977. It's published in these raw, unabridged tapes of Prabhupada. I think there was controversy, maybe the BBT was hiding something that Prabhupada said. So now you can get the tapes of Prabhupada, unabridged, unedited. And Prabhupada's talking about politicians, how they're barking. And if you read the newspaper, and they really are barking. There's, this man, that man, and they're trying to find fault with one another. Oh, he did this, he did that. And they say in the Times of India, it says, dance of democracy. I think it's the barking of democracy, isn't it? But according to Prabhupada says barking of democracy. But of course we know no better until we convince people how not to be dogs. We can't point the finger until each of our 100 sons, each of us have 100 sons. Of course we can't be Rishabdev, but we can have many followers and teach them not to bark about the material body. Woof, woof, who goes there? This is my country. Have you got your visa? Prabhupada felt really insulted. He first went to Kenya, he wasn't allowed in. He had to go back somewhere else. We didn't allow him in. So he didn't have some piece of paper. So this is a barking dog culture. Anyway, let's go on. So, when a person is situated as a spirit soul, he doesn't bark. He talks about the soul, talks about Krishna, the Supreme Soul, my relationship with Krishna. This is the purpose of this movement. To gradually elevate us from the dog platform, woof woof, who goes there, woof woof, who's she, woof woof, who's he, sniff sniff, who goes there. So to elevate us from that platform to the platform of being a liberated soul with no attachment to this material body. So these instructions are meant for that. So we're supposed to be desireless. So this is a scientific process, Prabhupada is saying. It's a question of realization. Just like in the science lab, you add copper sulfate to sulfuric acid, you get a realization. What's the realization? Psh, and then you get blue. It becomes blue. Oh, wonderful. And so you realize something. So Krishna consciousness scientific is Vigyan. We're practicing some process, method, and we're supposed to get certain results. If we don't get the results, we go back and check if the experiment is wrong. It's not some blind dogmatic sentimentality. Actually, it's interesting in Congo, Prabhupada's books have had a big impact because they've never read books like Prabhupada's before. They're just like, what? These books were always existing? They said, we've been cheated by our Western culture. These books are teaching us our original culture, which is more or less Sanatana Dharma, that there's a Supreme Lord, there are the living entities, there are the demigods, there's the demons, there's law of karma, there's transmigration. And then, the followers of the Bible came out and they thought, oh, these black guys with no clothes on, they're savages. Mind you, it's so hot there, you don't feel like wearing any clothes. So, so they were just being practical, So they took a lot of them away as slaves, and because they just came with their guns, the Bible, and money, and so half the people went to America and here and there as slaves. But the original culture is very sophisticated. There was brahmacharya in Africa. If a boy and girl were caught associating together before the proper time, which was like 25 years for a man, he couldn't have illicit sex, or he'd be in serious trouble. They have in the tribes in Africa, they have it's like a separate tribe. It's called the Tribal Avengers. And they're all sannyasis, and they don't eat meat or anything, they're just like totally austere. And if somebody, if anyone's caught doing anything, they used to call them in, and they would do like instant justice, and they would be punished. Pretty heavy punishment. But it was something like Varnashram Dharma. Something like. Of course, the Christians said these people are the Brahmins, the spiritual advanced, they call them witch doctors. Because even now, they hear we're vegetarian, they think, oh, he's a witch. He's wearing robes, he's a witch. They're so bigoted, so superstitious in Africa, it's difficult. But the intelligent class of men, I was just saying, in the universities, when they read Prabhupada's books, because they have salary, they have income, they can relax, they can open a book and read it without worrying about feeding their belly. The poor students, they don't have hardly any money, it's difficult for them. But the scholars, and we're making headway in the university, and Prabhupada is preaching. I can't say, we're preaching so much. I mean, my disciples really enthusiastic. He simply promotes Prabhupada's books, and he shows them Prabhupada's books. He says, these books are for the leaders of society. Evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo vidu, for the leaders of society. And people think, oh wow, the leaders of society, that's me. I'm a leader. Okay, let's read this. And they do this form of book distribution. He said, read this book. If you like it, you can give me a donation. And if you don't like it, give it me back. Then it's not a hard sell to these people. Because these scholars and educated people, they don't like to think somebody's walking in their office and trying to flog a book to them and get some money out of them. They're not on that platform. So build a relationship, give them the book, and come back next week. 75%, 80% people, they buy the book. They take the book, give a good donation. So Prabhupada's books sell themselves if we give Prabhupada a chance. He's a Shiksha Guru for this next 10,000 years. And he's present in his books. You see, Krishna, the spiritual master is the external manifestation of the super soul. So, when people read Prabhupada's books, Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hrijantastohi Abhadrani Bindranoti Suritsatam. This is Bhakti Yoga. This is how it's working. When a pious person, Shrinvatam Svakata, hears Svakata Krishna, and Krishna dwelling within his heart cleanses the desire for material enjoyment. So this is working, I've seen it working. In fact, it's our only hope. Of course, it's more difficult for you because you have to get money for the books. What happened was a little bit of ISKCON history I throw in for new devotees. One time there were big book distribution just after Prabhupada left. But then several senior devotees, leaders, gurus, they left the movement. And there were stacks of books, like thousands and thousands of French books. And nobody knew what to do with them. Just the flies and things were getting into them. Dead stock. So Brahma Muhurta thought, well, we have to use these books. So they offered them to the African preaching. So I got half these books, Bhakti Tirtha got half. They're in the French-speaking countries. Even though they were free though, you have to work hard to distribute the books. And then, but we have some special mercy. Prabhupada did say free books in Africa. He said Prasadam, Harinam, and free books. So we got the free books. So anyway, the main point I'm trying to make is that Prabhupada is the preacher. And he's teaching scientifically. When people read Prabhupada's books, something happens in their heart. What's going on? I'm realizing something. Now I'm seeing the truth. There's a light. When, however, the light of Krishna consciousness arises, it's just like the sun arising in someone's heart. There's so much knowledge in Prabhupada's books. Okay, let's finish the purport. Jnana means that one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, to be the Supreme Being. Vijnana refers to the activities that liberate one from the ignorance of material existence. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Jnanam paramaguyam me yad vijnana samanvitam. Knowledge of the Supreme Lord is very confidential, and the supreme knowledge by which one understands Him furthers the liberation of all living entities. This knowledge is called Vijnana. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Janma kama cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvata Chakvadeham purna janma naitima meti sojana. One who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Yeah, so this is the crux of the matter. What is Prabhupada doing in his books? What is the main thing that Prabhupada is doing in his books? As explained here. He's giving knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's never been distributed before. In most places, even in India, they don't understand that. You can hear Prabhupada ranting and raving about so many big scholars and politicians. They never understood what Bhagavad Gita was about. That's why he wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is, let alone other parts of the world. You see the Jehovah's Witness magazine. There's a picture of God the Father. What's his face? It's blank. Got a blank face. That means ignorant. People, the main thing about human life is that conditioned life is that we have no one to love. You read the preface to Nectar of Devotion. Man's loving propensity is completely stultified, stagnant. It's turning to lust. It's turning to perversion. The whole world is perverted because there's no one to love. You see? And Prabhupada didn't want to sit here in Vrindavan. He sat here in Vrindavan to write the books, Krishna and Radha Damodar temple. And when they were ready, we took them out. And he struggled like anything to get the money to print the books. And then he risked his life on the ocean to take these books because they are teaching Atecham Sakalo Pumsham, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is that person who everyone should love. That face. Nobody knows the face of God. And where Prabhupada also said, by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, you will see your own face. We can't see our own face until we see Krishna's face. We don't know who we are. We're still in the crazy cinema dream that I am this body. So the holy name is wake up, sleeping souls, Jeev Jago. This is Lord Chaitanya's movement. So we should all be thinking of Prabhupada's example, to not to hang around unnecessarily in the holy place. Vrindavan, Prabhupada didn't hang around too much. Of course, if we're retired and old, but many young brahmacharis here, what should be your ambition? To go out, take Prabhupada's books to every nook and corner of the world. Especially, you're born in Bharatvasa, Bharata Bhumite Hoilat Manusya Janmayar. Janmasataka Koro, Para Upakara. The supreme welfare work. To take these books in every language. It's a really sad thing. You know, in Africa, the Christians have published the Bible in over 2,000 languages. In Africa. I mean, you know, there's so many tribes. And these missionaries, admittedly, you know, European cultures, they got the guns, they got the money, they got the power, and the missionaries went out. But they were very dedicated. They used to go to the village, the village district, where there's some language, some local language. They used to learn the language, and then they used to put it into script. And then they used to teach the people to read, and then they used to bring in the Bible in their own language. So much effort they took to spread these teachings in Africa. And we have Bhagavad Gita in only like 2 languages so far. I mean, it's just like, it's disgrace. And we're translating in Luganda, that's Uganda. We're translating in Zulu, but they're not published yet. We have BBT Africa. Jadwaita is in charge, and we're trying to get the books out. But you know, it just shows there's not enough devotees who are sincere to come and other countries. We're buttering our own bread in India. That's what I see. What's the point? We're opening 60 temples in India. But what about the rest of the world? I mean, I find it really disturbing. So many Indian people, they come to Uganda. They just stick together. They just take money from the local people, and they don't want to give anything. And they don't want to marry their daughters to an African. They don't want to mix. So this ego, especially Prabhupada also said, I'm glad I left India. And when he met the hippies, he was very happy. Because they didn't have so much ego. They were willing to surrender to Krishna, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So anyway, you know, it's not a question of Indian, African, American. We're all eternal servants of Krishna, and we have to wake up to the fact. Let's take to this process seriously, and let's try and make our lives perfect, and spread this movement all over the world. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Any questions, please?